Hey folks, so real quick, I'm back at the Honda 70 engine, the blue one that I'm tearing apart for a customer to rebuild. Found a couple of things while I was in here. Number one, not that it's a bad thing, but somebody put an aftermarket stator in it, and lighting assembly. I know because of the plug, that's not stock Honda. It's probably off of one of the Chinese imports, which is, it's fine. It works, it works. The bigger thing is, we heard some rattling. That's what it is. And I ran it before we changed the oil, just to make sure it ran. And to listen to it, we heard a whackety whack in there, and that's what it was. Don't talk back. So that actually will cause a bigger problem. It's loose and it ran, but it'll jump time up there in that cam sprocket and bend the valves. This is a non-interference engine. So if you have a noisy cam chain, you want to get it replaced, and or I mean, I've seen, now I don't practice this, but this case right here can be relieved up in just a little bit further, and it'll allow it to tension it, you know, down to about right there. I guess you wouldn't get a lot more life out of this, but you can do that to buy yourself a little time. But really, these aren't that hard to pull apart and just put a cam chain in. You just take these three, you know, since we're this far, you take these three cam sprocket fasteners off, pop, take this out of here. That's a rubberized plastic roller, a buffer, so this thing isn't completely hitting the cast cylinder and the aluminum head. Pull the cam chain out this way, put a new one in. The other thing that happens is, these four holes right here are, one of them was leaking, maybe two, I don't know. What happens is people pull these apart, there's two different length fasteners. It's the Kickstarter foot peg assembly, but in these front two, they're a little bit longer because they have to accept these guys. This is the push guard, and they've got kind of a built-in washer in them. So those are a longer fastener. If those get switched around, and those fasteners get put in the rear, it's more than likely these are back here are the ones that are pushed up through into the case. And that allows oil to, you know, it'll leak out of there until the end of time. And then that's a bad thing because kids don't check their oil as often as they should. So pretty soon you're low on oil, and then the oil pump gets kind of starved. It takes a while, but it does happen with these. We're going to replace, this is the oil pump drive gear. We're going to replace that gear. I don't very often ever replace this sprocket for the crank, the cam chain crank sprocket, because they just don't wear out. I've seen them where they have, but it's pressed on. So anyway, that is pretty much it for this video. The other thing is, the crankshaft looks pretty good. Flywheel key is intact. If you have a machine that keeps spinning, keeps running, basically it'll run for a while, and then you'll have a bigger kid get on, or you'll have somebody really racket the gears, and it spins the flywheel on the crank. It's not because the keyway's bad. It's because this taper is bad. That taper is what locks on that guy right there, and that's what keeps that flywheel connected to the crank and doesn't allow it to spin. The only reason the key is there is for timing for the ignition. That's it. On anything, that's what it is. The taper locks the flywheel in place, not the Woodruff key. That doesn't hold anything. All it does is make a spot for a timing, so everything is kosher. All right, so that's it on this video. I'll tear it apart even further. I'll inspect the valves, look at the clutch, see what's packed in there. I'll bet you a bunch of aluminum is packed in that clutch, because of that, this whackety whacking going on for a while. Who knows how long it was ridden that way, but it happens. All right, well, I'll come back for another one and then do a rebuild on it and put her back together. Stay tuned.